Also, make your picks online at sportstalk1051.com, clicking on the Fan Cave tab. Hey, I just saw this. You might want to make sure you're tuning in to the Dan Patrick Show at 10:25. Jordan Love is going to be a guest on the Dan Patrick Show. So there you go. You want to hear quarterback number one for the Green and Gold, Jordan Love, 10:25. It looks like he's scheduled to be on the DP Show. Let's do the local sports roundup, Brandon. Oh, man, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Where do you start?
Well, let's start off. I know we had some kiddos declaring where they were going to go play, collegiately, and I know you were over in Holcomb with Trent Netek. Mm-hmm. He's going to go play. He's going to go play some football at the next level.
In Duluth. And he is one of many kids from the area that's going to do that. So
I just know, because Trent is a former Carpet City Bowling Center local spotlight.
Yes. Last year, a two-time state track and field champion.
This was a goal for a long time to play college football.
Right? And he actually, last year for the first time, was when he went out for track. And he went out for track, and he told me specifically because he wanted to be able to play college football. And he knew that would help him kind of get on the next level. And it certainly did. He flat out said, like, a lot of the attention he started getting from schools came after he won the 100 and 200 state championships at state last June. Mm-hmm. And then from there, he got invited to camps, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But getting in with Duluth it's a good school to get into. A D2 school, the closest there might be one closer, like on the eastern border of Minnesota, but it's 2.5 hours away from Holcomb, so it's not. Obviously, it's still pretty close to home.
Yeah,
but just an absolute speedster. I mean, he's why teams are interested with him, and he's got a good family pedigree there with his dad having success playing football and being a state champion in the shot put. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and like I mentioned, there's just a lot of guys.
Shout out Dusty.
A lot of kids in the area who are going to play football. Sam Wenzel from Elk Mound's going to play at UMD. It's just there's a lot
some
of
Thorup kids I saw too going over there to was it Logan Hansen and Denzel Sutton?
They're not going to UMD, but still Denzel Sutton will be joining the same conference in the NSIC, which is a big D2 conference in Minnesota. He's going to Minnesota Moorhead.
Okay.
Where actually there's a good chunk of area kids on that team. Jack Strand, Bloomer graduate, was one of the D2's top passers last year, and they have a very high octane offense there. Couple Stanley Boyd kids that are there. Former Chai quarterback Justin Check is actually the quarterback's coach on that staff. So there's a pretty good local tie-in there. Logan Hansen going to play at Dordt University in Iowa, which is actually an NAIA school. Mm-hmm. So those two were in the middle of obviously very successful last few years for the Cardinals. Most recently, guiding the team to the 8-man state title game. Mm-hmm. And I think with all those three, with both the Thorpe kids and Netek, and we've seen it too with a couple other McDonald kids last year, I think it really kind of goes to show the antiquated idea of like, well, if you play 8-man, you're not going to be able to play at the next level. I think that kind of dispels that because obviously these guys are going to play at really good colleges. I mentioned Malachi Zuckerman and Dale Tetrault last year for McDonald. They're playing in the WIAC now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, now more than ever, and I think Denzel Sutton said it best when he said, like, if you can play football, you can play football. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 8-man, 11-man. Like, coaches can tell. And, if you put the time in and you're able to have that success, you're going to get that opportunity. And these players, like many around here, but, especially dealing with 8-man, like, that shows it.
Right. Yeah, so congratulations to everybody. I know there's so many of them out there.
Yeah, and it's always a fun day because it is such a culmination of things. Mm-hmm. Yep. You see the parents there, you see the friends, you see the coaches. I know the Lake Holcomb AD he's a UMD guy, so he was pretty excited for it too.
Is that who was wearing the same shirts or same color shirts over there? Okay.
Yep.
That's got to be cool. So, yeah. Okay, should we do some hoops? Or let's do hockey. Let's start off with hockey because we're getting to the postseason.
Yeah, the postseason starts next week, so for most teams, the regular season wrapped up last night. There's still a few others that are playing some non-conference games, but Chippewa Falls ran the gauntlet in the Big Rivers, went 14-0 with an overtime win at Memorial last night, 3-2. Evan Foyles gets the game-winning goal a few minutes into overtime. But just a great back and forth game between two of the top 3 ranked Division I teams in the state. Shia's number 1, Memorial's number 3, and just a great back and forth game. Definitely the type of game where you can. It feels like the postseason, but now going into the playoffs, Chippewa's the 1 seed. They'll open up the playoffs next Thursday in the regional finals against either North or DC Everest, whoever wins Tuesday. Memorial is the number 4 seed.
Okay.
I believe they play Superior, if my memory is correct.
Dangerous 4 seed, though, too, right?
Yes. I mean, you've got your top 4 seeds there are Chippewa Falls at 1, Stevens Point at 2, Hudson at 3, and Memorial at 4. And all 4 of those teams are ranked in the top 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's been the case a lot in the last few years. That section is always just loaded. Like, Hudson's got a few recent state championships there. I mean, they're Hudson. They're always going to be there. Stevens Point's had a great year.
Yep.
Obviously, Chippewa Falls had a great year. They're taking a long win streak into the postseason. Eau Claire Memorial's beating Stevens Point.
Yeah.
They beat Stevens Point when they were the number 1 ranked team. So that is going to be really fun to watch. What I can only imagine is just going to be an absolute battle to see who emerges out of that section.
Yeah, I know Justice called it like the bracket of death almost.
Yeah, exactly. Because you could make a case for so many of those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then the postseason for hockey. Hockey's one of those sports where you get hot at the right time. You get a hot goalie. I mean, you can pull off some upsets.
Mm-hmm. How about on the girls' side?
On the girls' side, they wrapped up the Big River season earlier in the week. In that section, St. Croix Valley is the number 1 seed, the Big River champions. Then you've got Hudson and Western Wisconsin as 2 and 3. Chippewa Falls Menominee is the 4, so they will open up the postseason against Eau Claire area next Friday at Chippewa Ice Arena. So that'll be a rematch from, obviously a couple regular season meetings, including one last week.
Right.
So, and that's another one where I think you can make a case for a bunch of those teams because St. Croix Valley they're the 1 seed. They won the Big Rivers, but they got knocked off by Western Wisconsin, and there's just a few different teams in there that you could say, hey, if you told me, hey, I think that team could make a run, I'd believe you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to be a matter of who's hot. Chippewa Falls Menominee last night played a really competitive game over in Schofield against Central Wisconsin, who is always a state-bound team.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a good effort for them to end the regular season on.
Right. Absolutely. So we got that postseason coming up here, starting next week for our local hockey teams. How about let's start off with some hoops girls side because bracket's going to be coming out sometime
Brackets
soon?
come out this weekend.
Okay.
They will be announced on Sunday. They'll have the hour-long reveal show that they've started coming out with, but a big week in the for the Western Clover Belt. The Fall Creek girls put themselves back right in the league title race with the win over McDonald, giving the Macs their first conference loss of the season on Tuesday in a really impressive game. I mean, they got up early and McDonald made a run in the second half, but Fall Creek kind of weathered the storm and closed that game strong. So those 2 teams enter tonight, which is the last week of or the last games for the Western Clover Belt season, tied atop. So they can both clinch it, a share with a win. Obviously, a win and a loss from the other one, they could get it outright. But those are 2 teams. They're on different sides of the Division IV sectional. But I mean, they're gonna, they're probably feeling pretty good about where they could be seated going into the weekend.
Mm-hmm. BRC too.
Big Rivers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been just such a battle all year.
Yeah.
And it's kind of had different moments where kind of different teams have made a run. And you've got Menominee, you've got Hudson, you've got Memorial up there. Rice Lake is going to be a threat come postseason time, as they always are with the Shepleys. But, Menominee's, they had a kind of a rough couple game stretch, but they've really turned it around here, picked up a sizable win over Chippewa last night. Right now you've got Memorial and Menominee tied at the top of the conference, 10-2 record. You've got Hudson a half game back at 10-3.
Man.
So, I mean, you don't get any closer than that. And Saturday, you've got Memorial at Menominee, a Saturday night game that's going to be a huge one in the conference championship picture. So that's going to be quite the fun battle here as we go into the final week. With by next week, you're going to have one more game for each.
Boys side. I know we had a question from Jake from State Farm. About he wanted to ask you, do you know if by chance how Dominic Schwarzenberger, how many points he needs to break Bloomer's school record, and if it's attainable? I think he's close.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know he's in striking distance. The record held by Peyton Dockel, who's a tremendous four-year standout for the Blackhawks in the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
But I know he's in striking distance. He's still got a little bit of work to do.
Okay.
But it's possible, and he's got he'll have a couple regular season games left here.
And Fall Creek just beat them.
I was at that game last night. Fall Creek picked up a very impressive 70-49 win over Bloomer. A game that Bloomer actually led at the half. You wouldn't know it by that final score, but second half, Rick Storley's bunch just came out on fire. I mean, that's a Fall Creek team that's been kind of up and down this year. Bo Wolrath working his way back from the leg injury he suffered during football, but last night him and Jack Stanky, just two, I think 165, 166, and they were working really well together. Like that two-man post game was working well for them. They were getting great guard play. Jack Walton had a great game shooting the ball. And that's a Fall Creek team that, the boys' pairings come out next week. And I think I mentioned this before, like, they're 11-9, and it hasn't fully been clicking for them yet. But there's going to be some team in like the regional semis that's going to be very upset they have to play like a 6 or a 7 seed Fall Creek, because that's a much better team than that. It's just they've had to deal with injuries, and they're just kind of figuring out the chemistry there. So that's going to be a very dangerous team in Division 4.
BRC Memorial still kind of, you even know with the injuries there, are they still holding up on top there in the conference?
They are. They've got a 1.5 game lead on Hudson. And tonight's the big intercity rivalry. And shout out to Eau Claire North. They picked up the big win over Marshfield earlier this week.
Nice.
That's a Marshfield team that was state ranked, was highly state ranked. Came into that game with only one loss, and the Huskies down 12.5 come back and get that win. I saw them last Saturday when they beat Chippewa. That's another team that's going to be very interesting come playoff time, because they've got kind of a good mix of talent. You've got Andrew Roxvold, a 6'7" UW Eau Claire commit, so we'll be staying close to home here after his senior year this year. But he's had some big games, no pun intended. They got some really good shooters on the outside. Like that's a North team that it's kind of starting to put some pieces together here at the right time. But Memorial, you mentioned, they're game and a half up on Hudson. You got River Falls in the mix there. It's Eau Claire Memorial right now in the driver's seat, but there's still a few weeks left. So we'll see how they close it out and try to get themselves a pretty good seed going in the postseason.
All right. Wrestling, are we?
We're at regionals.
Regionals.
We got regionals coming up here tomorrow. Division 1, a lot of those really the entire Big Rivers and Regis Altoona will be over in Hudson for Division 1. Division 2, a lot of the teams around here will be over in Medford.
Nice.
In your backyard.
Yep.
A lot of the D3 schools will be in Auburndale, some other regionals as well around here, but top 4 finishers in each weight class advance. That's universal now. In the past it was different for the regionals and for regionals, but I think it was last year or the year before. Kind of one of the happy accidents of some of the changes that were made during COVID was WA opted for larger regionals, which I think was a good thing, because you would have 6 or 7 team regionals where in some brackets you only had like 2 or 3 kids, especially at the smaller. But they've gone to bigger regionals and just taking more kids from those bigger regionals, which I think is the better way to obviously get the better wrestlers out of there.
Right.
So you've got that, and then sectionals will be next weekend, and that's where the girls jump in too, because their first round of postseason is the sectionals, just because girls wrestling is making awesome strides, but it's just numbers wise isn't quite there yet to have a regional and a sectional. So you get sectionals, and you'll get a lot of these wrestlers out there going. So and then state near the end of the month in Madison.
All right, and then gymnastics and swimming.
Gymnastics, you've got we're near the end of the regular season. I know the Big Rivers Conference meet is next weekend, and then in a couple weeks they jump right into sectionals. Chippewa Falls hosting the Division 1, so a lot of the big teams around here. Boys swimming has sectionals tomorrow in Hudson as well, so that's where D1 is, I should say. So that's they're there. We're right down to it. I mean, I mentioned last week when the calendar turns to February, you're running and gunning. So
right,
and
exactly.
things are coming fast and furious. So
same thing on the collegiate level here. Blue Golds, if you're kind of taking a look at their schedule. Kind of rivalry week continues, if you will, for the Blue Golds, because men's hockey's taking on Point, or excuse me, Stouts, because wrestling's taking on Point before they begin their postseason action. And then you got basketball. It's Blue Golds versus Stouts this weekend, too, the doubleheader going on over there, too. So, and then track and field. Blue Golds, where are they at? Stout. So A lot of rivalry games going on there, too. You can check out the entire schedule for the Blue Golds at bluegolds.com. And don't forget to check out the latest episode of the Rollin' with the Golds podcast, breaking down all things Blue Golds. You can check that out at sportstalk1051.com and wherever you get your podcast. Brandon, thanks for breaking that all down. That's your local sports roundup, brought to you by Amundson's Appliance. All right, ready to talk some Super Bowl?
I think so.
Let's do it. Take a quick break. And Josh, if you're still watching us on the stream, let me know. I got a message for you.